Hi everyone, so I had a question from a very special lady and a few others that are also special, but I had a really special request last night from Kyla from Scrap Affairs to please show you guys the difference between Brilliance Dewdrop, Memento Dewdrop and Versa Magic Dewdrop. Okay, first of all, these are all brand new. They all open the same way. They are sealed. These are wonderful little inks from Japan, from a company called Tsukineko. I've got three reds here. The one is called Rocket Red, it's the Brilliance. I've got Ladybug, which is the Memento, and I've got Red Magic, which is the chalk ink, the Versa Magic. First of all, these colors are not the same. I'm going to do a few basic tests with these. Here's the Brilliance, just so you can get an idea. There's Brilliance. Here's Memento. I'm going to try and keep and stay organized with this. It's not my strong point, I just go ahead. But you can see they're very similar. They are all red or shades of red. I do think the Brilliance has a bit of a pink hue, and I do like the Ladybug, and then the Red Magic is more like a fire truck red, I suppose. Okay, so I've got one stamp here, so we're going to do a few tests. We are going to be stamping with each of these inks. We are going to be blending with each of these inks. We're going to see if they can react with water, and then I'm going to see if they can chalk well. There are a million other things you can do with these inks, but I just want to show you a few basic similarities and differences. Okay, first of all, we're going to stamp. So you always take the ink to the stamp. I've got a cute little stamp here. It's very old, but I thought it would be a good, so please don't ask me if I can get you the stamp, because I simply cannot get you the stamp. As with any stamping, you should be stamping on a stamp mat if you are not a prolific stamper. And while I'm talking to you, I'm kind of scouring to see where my stamp mat is, but I have no idea where I put it since I cleaned my room. So let's just stamp away. The craft mat I'm working on does double as a stamp mat because it has got some give and it's not as flat as the regular craft mats. Okay, but you can see this stamps beautifully the Brilliance. Why they call it Brilliance? It's got a brilliant shimmer. So when this is dry, I'll show you it's got a fantastic shimmer. You want to just clean off most of the ink. Okay, you can see I still had some black on there. Next we're going to go to the, I mustn't get confused, next we're going to go off to the Memento. Memento is a dye ink, which means regularly it will, or normally it will react with water. I am just going to stamp my little heart. You can see it also stamps nicely, but you don't have that solidity as what you had with the Brilliance. Okay, so that is just a slight difference there. So if you want to use the ink just for stamping, you need to bear that in mind. Wipe off the ink so people can't say that I cheated. And now we're going off to the Versa Magic, and I'm inking up my stamp really nicely. I just want to say I'm not being paid to do these, and it is my own opinion, what I'm expressing, and from experience what I have gathered. So you can see how beautifully the Versa Magic also stamps. So there we've got Versa Magic, there I've got Memento, and here I've got Brilliance. Personally, I would choose the Brilliance, or I would choose the Versa Magic to stamp with, unless you like that kind of distressed look. Now, which ink does that remind you of? Distress inks, of course, because distress ink is also a dye ink. And I can hear the puppies coming, so sorry if they're gonna make a noise, but they want to go walk, and we haven't gotten around to that yet today. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, we are going to be blending with each of these inks, because you know that people say you can only blend with certain inks. I do not think that's true. I know that's not true. So I'm going to take, this is clean. I know it looks dirty, but it actually is clean. And I'm going to take my blending tool to my ink, and in little circular motions, we all know how to blend, I'm going to start pulling the ink onto my piece of paper, and it blends beautifully. You can see this is the Versa Magic. It can blend wonderful. Okay, next we're going to go to the Memento. I'm not worried about that little thing. And once again, I'm taking, it is clean, I'm taking it into my ink, and we are going to blend and blend. Little circles, little circles, little circles. We are pulling the ink. This is not a blending class. We are pulling the ink onto the paper, and you can see the Memento dye ink blends beautifully. Okay, so lastly, we've got the Brilliance, and we are going to see if this will blend. So once again, I'm taking my clean blending tool, tapping it onto the ink, and let's see, it blends, it blends, it blends. It blends beautifully. So with all three of these inks, you can blend. I like to chalk using my blending tool. Can it chalk? Yes, marvelously. Okay, there we're chalking with Brilliance. Here we're chalking with Memento. And here we are chalking with the Versa Magic. Okie dokie. Righto. Now, if you want to chalk and you do not want to use a little finger dauber, can't know where mine has disappeared to now. It ran away because it knew that I wanted to pick on it. I love my finger daubers. I do not think that you should blend at all without your blending tool or with your finger dauber. You hurt your ink. It doesn't like being cut into the paper, but I'm just going to show you. That's what happens when you just blend. Try and chalk with the little ink pad. That's using the Brilliance, which is a sponge pad. The Memento is a linen pad. That's what happens when you chalk like that. And you can see, like I'll sometimes get some ink onto my fingers. The Brilliance does stay wet quite long. You can see how that is still moving. And then as far as the chalk goes, it also stays wet. Okay, so when you're using your little finger dauber, I cannot believe that I lost my little finger dauber. Hold on, I will be back. Okay, I found it. Sorry, it was on the floor. You should have one at least for each color family. So what you do, you just tap it into your little ink, and look at that. That is much better than going chuff, chuff, chuff. I mean, really, don't you think so? Once again, that is my personal opinion, and this stays wet a long time. You should be, and I mean, I've only dabbed it in there once, and you can see how far I am getting with that. Okay, so you can use these little things with stencils, and they are also fantastic because they can be washed and reused. But I really, like I said, you should have one for each color family. And I hope I'm not getting too messed up here. Right, the next thing we're going to do, we are going to see how these inks react with water. So we've got the Versa Magic. We're going to twist it onto the craft sheet. We've got the Memento, we're going to, the Dewdrop, the Memento Dewdrop, and we've got the Brilliance. So the only way to see if an ink will do something is to actually try and see if it will do something. And to see if an ink will react with water, you always need water. So I'm going to mist that. Not much of a reaction there. You can see that's reacting nicely, and that's also reacting nicely. So I'm going to take my piece of paper, dip and drag, take my piece of paper, dip and drag, take my piece of paper, dip and drag. Okay, so you can see all these inks can be used to color white pieces of paper. So if someone says you need to bring like red ink to a class, ask maybe what you're going to do, because with a StazOn ink this will not work, because StazOn is not reactive with water. But yes, you can use these little inks for almost anything. Now, one of the tests, or one of the things people ask me, will this do the flick test? So let's quickly see. If I've blended and I'm now going to add droplets of water, will the ink move, and will it kind of react with the clear drops of water that's being added to the pieces of paper? You can really only see that effect once it's dry. It's not as distinct as with distress inks. Remember that that is one of the things that distress inks does that people really love. That's with the Brilliance. With the Memento, however, the dye ink, distress ink is a dye ink, This Memento is also a dye ink. Can you see that beautiful effect? Okay, it is not completely dry yet, but you can see how the ink is actually being pushed away by the water. And on the chalk ink, it barely makes a difference because it's a very fast drying ink. So there shouldn't be a lot of movement or a lot of opportunity for the ink to still move. So you can see that with the chalk you don't really get any effect if you just splat water on it. The dye ink is #1 for that technique, and the Brilliance, it's got a slight, it's being slightly affected, but I really wouldn't use that ink for if you want to achieve that look. The one thing that makes Brilliance brilliant is that you can stamp on photos with this. It takes a while to dry, but it is beautiful, and once it's dry it'll never come off. It won't fade. It's fade resistant. It's got that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shimmer. I love Brilliance inks. Okay, so and it's also heat embossable because it stays wet long enough for you to enable you to pour the powder over. But this is honestly my personal opinion. Ask your local shop to get these inks for you. They last a long time. They don't dry out as fast as other little inks. I've had some of mine for almost 7 years. They are fantastic and they're really cheap. You can, I think they're about 34, 35 Rand average, and you can buy one of each color for like a lot less than what you spend on other inks. I'm not saying that you should not buy other inks. All inks have their place, but these little babies are just wonderful, especially if you're traveling and you need to get a good selection of inks. Okay, you're leaving me with a wonderful mess. I hope that you'll have lots of fun testing out your own inks on your own stamps, and go and play. Goodbye.